Have you ever felt that cold, sudden shift where a woman who seemed so present suddenly becomes a ghost? It is one of the most agonizing experiences in modern dating. Sitting by a glowing screen, watching the minutes turn into hours without a single notification from the one person you can't stop thinking about. Your mind immediately goes to the worst-case scenario. You tell yourself that she's lost interest, that there is someone else, or that you've somehow managed to push her away with a single wrong word. But what if everything you've been taught about communication is a lie? What if her silence isn't a sign of her moving on, but a profound, overwhelming sign of how much she actually cares? We live in a world that tells us love is loud, that it's constant, and that it's always seeking attention. But true psychological depth tells a different story. For many women, the moment feelings become real, they become terrifying. When a woman truly loves you, the stakes change. You are no longer just a casual person she's passing time with. You are a threat to her emotional equilibrium. She ignores you not because you don't matter, but because you matter far too much for her to handle in the moment. This is the paradox of emotional high stakes. When she was just interested, she could reply to your texts in seconds. She could joke, she could flirt, and she could be lighthearted because there was nothing to lose. But the second that interest evolves into true, deep-seated love, the fear of rejection and the fear of being seen for who she really is begins to take over. Think about the psychological mechanism of self-protection. When we value something deeply, our first instinct is to protect it, and more importantly, to protect ourselves from the pain of losing it. If she ignores you, she is often creating a sanctuary of silence where she can process the intensity of her own heart. She is trying to regain control. You see, love is a loss of control. It's an admission that someone else holds the keys to your happiness. And for a woman who has been hurt before, who prizes her independence, that realization is a shock to the system. She pulls back to see if the world still stands without you. She ignores your message because she has spent the last 3 hours thinking about exactly what to say, and the weight of that importance has paralyzed her. It's a strange form of stage fright where the audience is just one person, you. We have to look at the difference between the dismissive silence and the overwhelmed silence. Dismissive silence is cold. It feels empty. But the silence of a woman who loves you is heavy. It's thick with the things she isn't saying. If you look closely at the patterns, you'll notice that she doesn't just disappear. She fluctuates. She is caught in a tug-of-war between the desire to be close to you and the desperate need to stay safe. This is why she might be incredibly warm and vulnerable one night, sharing her deepest secrets and making you feel like the only man on earth, only to go completely silent the next day. That silence is the hangover of vulnerability. She gave you too much of herself, and now she is terrified of what you will do with that power. By ignoring you, she is trying to pull that power back. She is trying to remind herself that she is still her own person. This behavior is often rooted in what psychologists call attachment styles. If she has a fearful avoidant attachment, her love and her fear are wired into the same circuit. The more she loves, the more the alarm bells go off in her head saying, "Danger. You are getting too close. You are going to get hurt." So she hits the brakes. She ignores the phone. She stays away from the places where she might see you. It is a biological survival mechanism triggered by the intensity of her affection for you. It's a twisted logic. But in her mind, if she stops the momentum, she stops the potential for the eventual heartbreak. She is testing the vacuum. She wants to see if you will disappear the moment she stops performing for you. Many men make the mistake of chasing during this phase, or worse, reacting with anger. They see the silence as a challenge or an insult. But if you could see behind the screen, you would see a woman who is staring at your name, heart racing, wanting to reach out but waiting for her pulse to slow down. She is waiting for the courage to be loved. This is the phase of emotional recalibration. Every time the relationship hits a new level of depth, she needs a moment to reset. It's like a diver coming up for air. She can't stay in the depths of that emotion forever without feeling like she's drowning. So she comes to the surface. She ignores you to find her breath. She focuses on her friends, her work, or her mundane life just to prove to herself that you haven't completely consumed her identity. Because that's what true love does to a woman. It threatens to become her entire world. And that is a very scary place to be. If she didn't care, she wouldn't need to recalibrate. She would just exist alongside you without a second thought. The very act of intentionally ignoring you requires a massive amount of mental energy. It takes effort to stay away from someone you are drawn to. It takes discipline to not click send on the draft she's rewritten 5 times. That effort is the greatest compliment she could ever pay you, even if it feels like a wound in the moment. The silence is also a mirror. She is holding it up to see what you will do. Will you panic? Will you become needy and desperate? Or will you be the grounded, masculine presence she can eventually return to when her internal storm passes? She is looking for a container for her emotions. If she truly loves you, she wants to know that you are strong enough to survive her absence. If your happiness depends entirely on her constant validation, then you aren't a partner, you're a responsibility. And a woman who is already overwhelmed by her own love for you cannot take on the responsibility of your emotional stability as well. So she ignores you to see if you can stand on your own 2 feet. It is a subconscious vetting process. She is looking for the man who doesn't need her, so that she can finally allow herself to want him. But there is a deeper, even more subtle reason for this silence. It's the fear of the mask slipping. In the early stages of attraction, we all wear our best versions. We are polished, we are funny, we are perfect. But as love deepens, the real self starts to emerge. The self that has flaws, the self that has bad days, the self that is deeply insecure. She ignores you because she is afraid that if you see the real her, the version that loves you so much she's lost her cool, you will lose interest. She believes the mystery is what keeps you there. She thinks that if she is too available, she becomes common. By ignoring you, she is trying to preserve the high-value image she thinks she needs to maintain to keep your heart. She doesn't realize yet that it is her vulnerability, not her distance, that will truly bind you together. But until she learns that, she will use silence as her shield. The silence is the ultimate test of the space between you, a vacuum where the ego begins to crumble and the true nature of the connection is revealed. When she pulls away, she is often observing how that space is filled. If you fill it with noise, with constant check-ins, or with the frantic energy of someone who is losing their grip, you are inadvertently confirming her deepest fear, that this connection is too heavy to carry. But if you allow the silence to exist, you are showing her that your bond is built on something more substantial than just constant reassurance. This quiet period is where the roots of a relationship actually grow. Above the surface, everything looks still, perhaps even dead. But underneath, she is processing the gravity of her feelings. She is asking herself if she is ready for the transformation that love requires. Because make no mistake, true love is a death of the old self. It requires giving up a part of her independence, a part of her single identity, and that transition is rarely smooth. She ignores you because she is mourning the version of herself that didn't need anyone, even as she celebrates the version of herself that has finally found you. It is also vital to understand the threshold of vulnerability. Every woman has a limit to how much of her inner world she can expose before she feels the need to retreat. If she spent the previous weekend opening up to you about her childhood, her fears, or her career ambitions, she has effectively handed you the blueprint to her soul. The following Monday, the silence hits. This isn't a game or playing hard to get. It is an emotional hangover. She feels exposed. In the light of the next day, she wonders if she said too much, if she looked weak, or if you now look at her with less respect because she let her guard down. Ignoring you is her way of closing the blinds and locking the door until she feels strong enough to face you again. She needs to prove to herself that she can still function without your validation, even after she's admitted how much she wants it. It's a rhythmic pulse. Expand and contract, breathe in and breathe out. If you try to force the expansion when she is in the contraction phase, you will only cause her to retreat further. Let's look at the concept of the anchor. In psychology, we often seek an anchor when the waves of emotion get too high. For many women, their anchor is their routine, their work, or their solitude. When her love for you starts to feel like a storm, Unpredictable, powerful, and life-changing, she will cling to her anchor. She will bury herself in her projects, she will go for long runs, or she will simply sit in silence. She is trying to find the ground beneath her feet. When she ignores your text, she isn't busy in the literal sense. She is busy surviving the intensity of her own heart. She is trying to make sure that her love for you doesn't capsize her entire life. It is a sign of respect for the power you have over her. You don't ignore someone who has no impact on you. You ignore the person who has the power to make your heart stop with a single look. That silence is the sound of a woman trying to keep her composure in the presence of a king. Furthermore, we must consider the fear of the inevitable end. In the back of every person's mind who has ever been burned by love is the thought, this is too good to be true to when a woman starts to feel that forever kind of love, her subconscious mind often tries to sabotage it. By ignoring you, she is practicing for the day you might leave. It is a defense mechanism called anticipatory grief. She thinks that if she can survive a week without talking to you now, while things are good, she will be able to survive if things ever go bad. She is building an emotional fortress, brick by brick, just in case the castle of your relationship ever falls. It is a tragic irony. She pushes you away because she is so terrified of you walking away. She wants to be the one in control of the distance. If she creates the silence, she can't be surprised by yours. But there is a beauty in this silence if you know how to read it. It is the gestation period of a deeper commitment. Just as a seed needs the darkness of the soil to break open and grow, a woman's love often needs the darkness of silence to mature. During these periods of ignoring, she is actually integrating you into her long-term vision. She is imagining what a life with you looks like, weighing the sacrifices, and deciding that you are worth the risk. This isn't a decision made in the heat of a conversation. It's a decision made in the quiet hours of the night when your absence is felt most. If she can feel your presence even when you aren't speaking, she knows the connection is real. She is testing the unseen bond. She wants to see if the thread between your hearts is strong enough to stay taut even when you aren't pulling on it. You must also recognize the mirror effect of modern technology. We are the first generations in history expected to be available 24 hours a day. This is not natural. For thousands of years, love grew in the spaces between letters, in the weeks between visits, and in the silence of longing. Today, we mistake instant access for intimacy. When she ignores you, she is accidentally returning to a more primal, more natural way of bonding. She is creating longing, and longing is the fuel of desire. Without the space she creates by ignoring you, the fire of your attraction would eventually burn out from a lack of oxygen. She is, perhaps without even knowing it, providing the oxygen your relationship needs to stay alive. She is giving you the gift of missing her. She is giving you the opportunity to realize how much she matters to you by showing you what life feels like when she is temporarily out of reach. If she truly loves you, she is also terrified of suffocating you. She knows how much she wants to talk to you, how much she wants to see you, and how much she wants to be in your orbit. She fears that if she let out the full floodgate of her affection, it would be too much for any man to handle. She thinks she would be too much, too needy, or too intense. So, she overcompensates. She swings to the other extreme. She goes silent to prove she isn't a burden. She ignores you to show you that she has her own life, even if her heart is secretly counting the seconds until she can hear your voice again. It is a delicate dance of trying to be the cool girl while her soul is screaming for connection. The silence is the mask she wears to hide her desperation to be with you. The silence is also a profound indicator of how much she is overthinking every single interaction. In a world of instant gratification, we assume that a quick reply means interest and a slow one means indifference, but the psychological reality for a woman in love is often the exact opposite. When she doesn't care, she doesn't think. She typed a reply in 5 seconds because your opinion of her doesn't carry any weight. But when she truly loves you, every word she sends feels like a permanent record of her soul. She ignores your message because she is trapped in a loop of digital perfectionism. She writes a sentence, deletes it, tries again, wonders if she sounds too eager, wonders if she sounds too cold, And eventually, the anxiety of getting it right becomes so heavy that she puts the phone down entirely. Her silence is the paralyzed state of a heart that is terrified of making a mistake. She would rather you think she is busy than have you think she is foolish or overinvested. This is the perfectionist ghosting, where the silence is actually a tribute to how much she respects your intellect and your perception of her. Deep down, this silence is also about the sacrifice of privacy. To love someone truly is to lose the privacy of your own mind. Suddenly, her thoughts are no longer just hers. They are colored by how you would react to them. Her plans for the future now have a U-shaped hole in them that she has to account for. This is a massive internal shift. She ignores you to reclaim the internal sanctuary of her own thoughts for just a moment. She needs to know that she still exists as a singular entity before she fully commits to being part of a we. If she didn't love you, this transition wouldn't be necessary. She would just fit you into her schedule like a doctor's appointment or a gym session. But because she loves you, you aren't in her schedule. You are in her heart, and that requires a total reorganization of her inner world. The ignoring phase is the sound of the gears shifting as she moves from a life of me to a life of us. We must also talk about the vulnerability hangover that occurs after a period of intense intimacy. Perhaps you spent an entire night talking, or perhaps you shared a moment of physical and emotional closeness that felt life-altering. In the aftermath of such high-voltage connection, a woman will often short-circuit. The brain's limbic system, which handles emotions, becomes flooded with oxytocin and dopamine, and the prefrontal cortex, the logical part of the brain, tries to compensate by pulling back. She ignores you because her biology is demanding a period of cooling down. She is literally resetting her nervous system. If she stayed at that level of intensity forever, she wouldn't be able to eat, sleep, or work. The silence is her body's way of ensuring her survival. It is the refractory period of the soul. She isn't ignoring you. She is recovering from the beautiful trauma of falling in love. There is also this subconscious test of consistency. A woman who has been hurt in the past knows that any man can be attentive when things are easy and the conversation is flowing. But she wants to know who you are when things are quiet. She ignores you to see if your character remains the same in the absence of her attention. Does your confidence waver? Do you become resentful and lash out? Do you start posting cryptic messages on social media to get her attention? Or do you remain the same steady, reliable man she fell for? She is looking for emotional permanence. She needs to know that your love for her is a fixed star, not a flickering candle that goes out the moment she stops blowing on it. By ignoring you, she is giving you the space to prove that your ego is not the driving force of the relationship. She is looking for a partner who can handle the lows of silence just as well as the highs of passion. Think of the silence as the buffer zone of her independence. Every high-value woman fears losing herself in a man. She has spent years building her career, her friendships, and her self-esteem. When true love enters the frame, it threatens to overshadow all of those achievements. She ignores you to prove to herself that she still cares about her goals. She will intentionally stay off her phone while she's at work or out with her girls, even though her heart is aching to check if you've called. This is her internal rebellion. She is fighting against the urge to make you her entire sun. She wants to remain a planet with her own orbit. This resistance is actually a sign of a healthy, strong woman. You don't want a woman who drops everything the second you snap your fingers. You want the woman who loves you so much that she has to fight herself just to stay focused on her own life. That struggle is the highest form of flattery. Furthermore, we cannot ignore the fear of the pedestal. When a woman realizes a man truly loves her and sees her as something special, she often feels a crushing pressure to live up to that image. She ignores you because she is afraid of disappointing the version of her that lives in your head. She thinks that if she stays silent, she can remain that perfect, mysterious goddess you've imagined. She is hiding her humanity from you. The silence is a way of maintaining the mystique that she believes is the only thing keeping you interested. She doesn't realize that a real man loves the flaws, the morning breath, and the messy emotions just as much as the polished exterior. But until she feels safe enough to be unpolished, she will use the silence as a curtain to hide behind. She isn't ignoring you. She is protecting the magic of the connection from the mundane reality of her own insecurities. Ultimately, the silence of a woman who truly loves you is not a wall, but a bridge being built in the dark. It is the final stage of her internal surrender. When she finally emerges from that quiet space, she isn't coming back as the same person who left. She is coming back as someone who has weighed the cost of her heart and decided that you are worth every bit of the risk. She has looked at her independence, her fears, and her past wounds, and she has chosen to let them stay in the silence so that she can speak a louder truth to you. This is why you must never fear the quiet. If you can wait through the stillness without resentment, if you can hold the space without demand, you will find that her silence was never about pushing you away. It was about her gathering the strength to pull you in forever. True love doesn't need to shout to be real. Sometimes, it is most powerful in the moments when nothing is said at all, because in that vacuum, only the soul remains. When she finally reaches out again, it won't be because she needs to fill a void, but because she has realized that the void is only comfortable when you are the one standing on the other side of it.